Hi, Scott Whitley here, and welcome to this free bass lesson. In this lesson we're going to have a look at making your bass playing more lyrical. Now what I mean by that is, if you take notes that you play, musical notes, you could just play them, as in, if a note's a G, we know that the 5th fret on the D string is a G, so you could fret it, pluck it, job done. You've played a G, okay? Then if you've got a little run of notes, that's the first 3 notes of the major scale there. Just playing the notes like that, not applying anything except just fretting the note, plucking it. You're playing the correct notes, but there's no real interest to those notes. Let me show you. Now if I take those same 3 notes, and apply different techniques to it, I can make it sound a lot more interesting, okay? And that's what we're talking about, making your playing sounding more lyrical, okay? Rather than just playing the right notes, i.e., 3rd fret on the E string, being able to do something with it, to make it more interesting. So I've written a bunch of stuff out, a list of, there's about sort of 7 or 8 different kind of elements or techniques that you can use to make your lines more lyrical, okay? So I've just written down here, and this could be an infinite list really. I've just picked a bunch of stuff that I would use, slides, vibrato, hammer-ons, pull-offs, dynamics, loud and soft, and using a soft touch on the bass to get a different tone. In fact, tone is something that changes the way a line sounds. Palm muting, phrasing, the kind of rhythm that you use, and the way, the space really as well in between the notes you play. All those things are going to take notes that you already know, phrases, lines, runs, whatever, stuff that you've already got in your vocabulary, musical vocabulary. This is going to make it sound much more interesting to the listener, okay, and make you stand out as a player. So let's just take each one of those items one at a time. We're going to look at slides first, okay? So what we're going to do is sometimes to apply this stuff, you kind of need to break some of the rules. Now, what I mean by that is we're going to take the first 3 notes of the major scale, the G major scale. So that is the 5th fret on the D string, 7th fret on the D string, and the 4th fret on the G string. Okay, that's the first 3 notes of the major scale. Now, to do some of these slides and vibrato and things like that, I want to break out of that 1 finger per fret thing. Now it's really important that you always work on your scales, etc., using that 1 finger per fret approach. But what we're going to do here is play that same 3 notes on the 1 string. Okay, so we're going to go and play that note, the 4th fret on the G string. We're going to replace it with the same note, but it's going to be on the D string, so that's the 9th fret. So that's 5th, 7th and 9th on the D string, okay? So just play that a few times. Just get comfortable with that, okay? Now, let's look at slides, as I say. What you could do is you could approach the first note of that 3-note pattern from above and slide into it. So I'm sliding there from the 7th fret on the D string. I'm just quickly plucking it, and as soon as I pluck it, I slide it down onto the first note that we want, the 5th fret on the D string. So it's kind of, rather than it being two notes, like, as I say, as soon as you pluck it, you're sliding. So I'm seeing that as 1, like 1. Okay, almost like 1 beat slid, if that makes sense. So let's just try that with a drum machine. So I'll start it off and then just join in as you're comfortable. 2, 3, 4. Then we could slide from that note up to the 7th fret. Okay, so that's the 2nd note of the major scale. So we're going, and then we can slide from that note to the 3rd note of the major scale. So we're going from the 7th to the 9th. So the thought process here is that the notes we're playing are, and these slides are just approaches to those notes. So here we go. So slide from the 7th to the 5th, and then slide from the 5th to the 7th fret for that 2nd note, and then from the 7th to the 9th for that 3rd note. Here we go. Let's try it with the drum machine, and then just join in when you're ready. Here we go. One more time. One more. Here we go. Cracking. Okay. So you get the idea. This sounds kind of boring compared to. Okay. Let's look at the next technique that you can use to add this lyrical kind of quality to your playing. And the next one I've written down is vibrato. So if you've not used vibrato before, it can be kind of tricky to get under control if it's a new thing. Let me show you roughly how I use vibrato. I use reasonably light gauge strings, so it tends to be quite easy. But I'm just going to use my first finger, and if you play, I'm going to play this 5th fret on the D string, the G. You play the note, and then you basically just bend the note down, and then back to the center, and then up, and back to the center, and down, okay? So that was in, let me show you again in slow motion. So what you want to do is just start kind of quite slowly, practicing doing that, and then speeding it up. Okay. Now on the outer strings, you know, you can't really bend down because you're going to fall off the fingerboard. So you have to you just go up and back to the centre, if you like. So you push you fret a note, you bend it up, and then let it come back to pitch. Nothing too extreme. And the best way to apply vibrato, in my opinion, is to play a note, let the note kind of just ring a little bit, and then bring the vibrato in. Let me show you. So like this. So you just let it breathe for a second, and then bring it in. So let's have a go at applying that to this 3-note kind of phrase. So we're going, and we'll apply it on that 3rd note because that's the only note that's kind of got enough. We stay on it long enough to let the note breathe. You know, these we could do vibrato, but it would just sound kind of unnecessary, I think. So we'll just apply it on that 3rd note. So here we go. I'll start playing and then just join in when you're comfortable. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more. All right. So there you go. Now again, you know, if you've not used vibrato before, you might find you have to put quite a bit of practice in to get it working. But stick with it. It's one of the most you know, lyrical, you know, of these things. You know, the vibrato is really nice. Gives it an almost vocal kind of quality. So let's see what else we've got here. Hammer-ons. Okay. So let's ditch the slides for a minute and let's replace those with hammer-ons and pull-offs. So the same thing. If you've not used hammer-ons before or pull-offs, you know, you might find that you have to spend a little bit of time getting into it. So just stick with me, and here we go. So the first one we're going to do is let's do a pull-off. So we're going to play the 7th fret on the D string and do a pull-off to the 5th fret on the D string, but very, very quickly. Kind of the same as with the slide. As soon as you pluck this note, we do a pull-off. Okay, we don't want to go. It's a kind of all-in-one kind of movement. It's pluck the note and almost immediately pull off. A bit like a flam on the drums. You know, it's kind of like one beat. Okay. And then, instead of sliding up to the 2nd note of this phrase, we'll do a hammer-on. So this is the opposite of the thing we've just done. We've fret the 5th fret on the D string, pluck it, and immediately hammer on to the 7th fret on the D string. So far we've got this. Okay, and I think what we could do here is incorporate, just for the last bit, a slide up to that 9th fret. So the entire line would be, and then we'll stick the vibrato on the end. Let's have a go at that. Here we go. One more time. Okay. So let's look at the next one I've got on my list is dynamics. So that's a case of not playing everything at the same volume, bringing things up and down in levels. Okay. So let me just play you that same line the way we've just done it, but I'll use some dynamics, okay? So we'll start big. 2, 3, 4. So you can hear how it was the same 3 notes, the same exact phrase all the way through there. But just by using dynamics, by hitting it harder and bringing the volume up and then taking it right down, it had a massive kind of effect on how those notes sounded, okay? Almost made it sound like a little piece of music. So that's the way dynamics work, you know. And you can even use those in within a phrase, you know. So what I was doing there is kind of accenting certain notes. So that's another thing you can kind of play about with, is when you've got a run of notes, is just kind of accenting just 1 or 2 of the notes. And again, that's going to give you a completely different vibe to just playing. Yeah, okay. So that's dynamics. And while we're on that, let me talk about tone and using a kind of light touch. So, for example, if you play very, very lightly and you play kind of over the edge of the fingerboard here with your right hand, you get a much more kind of, it's a kind of really beautiful kind of tone, I would say, as opposed to, you know. So just have a play along with that. Let's put the drum machine on, okay. That's the phrase, isn't it? And just work on playing really softly. And just getting that tone. Maybe move your hand around, see what kind of different sounds you get, depending on where you pluck. Okay, so just the you know, changing how hard you pluck, as I say, using a very, very light touch, and plucking around this area particularly gives a really nice, smooth kind of, you know, almost electric piano-y kind of, you know, tone. Very, very nice. Another thing you can use is to give it again a kind of different texture is palm muting. Okay, so that's using this part of your hand to basically slightly deaden the notes you play. So let me just demonstrate the sound of it. Sounds completely different to, you know, those notes are really open and sustaining, and when you do this palm muting thing, you can get really extreme with it, it really kind of shortens the notes. You've got quite a quick attack and then a quick decay afterwards. And so how you're doing that, or how I'm doing that, is using this fleshy part of the palm there and letting that rest lightly on the actual strings, just this side of the bridge, and then just lightly as I say, resting that fleshy part on the strings and then plucking with the thumb. Okay, and that's going to give you, again, a completely different approach. So already with dynamics, vibrato, slides, hammer-ons, pull-offs, tone, and this palm muting, we could take those 3 notes and almost turn it into a piece of music, just repeating the same 3 notes. Let me give that a quick go. I'm not going to play it for ages and ages, but here we go. Okay, so that's just taking those elements that we've already talked about, those techniques, and just playing about with them, mixing and matching them, and just playing the same 3 notes over and over again, but getting something interesting out of it. Okay, so if you imagine that's just with 3 notes, if you apply this stuff to everything you play, to a greater or lesser degree, you're going to take your kind of musicianship to a completely higher level, you know. So I'm just going to, I've got a couple more things. Phrasing and space. Phrasing is pretty much something you saw happening just a minute there, is where I take the notes and I don't just play them, you know, I might sort of slightly alter the kind of time, and I might go, so kind of messing about with how long I stay on one note, kind of, and using space as well. You know, all these things can just take a very, very simple series of notes and turn it into something completely different. So I hope you find that that useful and in some ways enlightening. That it's not always about, you know, the notes, you know, where to put your fingers. Obviously, there's a lot more to music than just that. And some of the techniques we've talked about, if it's new to you, like the hammer-ons, pull-offs, vibrato, things like that, you might obviously need to spend some time working on those individual elements. But hopefully you can see that by working on those elements, you can really, really take your playing to a completely higher level. So thanks very much. If you enjoy these lessons, do me one massive favour. If you could share the video, whether it's on Facebook or via email with a friend, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Let people know about the channel. More free stuff to come. In the meantime, have a great time. See you then.